Welcome to the first edition of East Coast Bias. I'm your co-host Christian, along with my fellow co-hosts Jack and Dan. We're three guys who love a bunch of different East Coast teams that we'll be covering in depth on this show. I'm a diehard Giants, Yankees, and Penn State fan. Dan, tell us about your teams.
Diehard Giants fan, diehard Mets fan, unfortunately, diehard Rangers fan, and I love those Penn State Nittany Lions, but I still have a little love for the New Jersey home team, Rutgers Scarlet Knights, but just a little bit.
Basketball.
Yeah, because they're the only one that are really any good, so I think that's probably what I'll stick with.
Right now.
What about you?
I'm a proud graduate of the University of Maryland. Go Terrapins. I also care about Rutgers University athletics. I'm a big-time New York Jets fan, a former New Jersey Nets fan, and a big-time fan of the New Jersey Devils and the Washington Nationals, your World Series champion Washington Nationals.
All right, today's show includes a Giants-Jets season preview. We'll talk about the AL and NL East, and we'll discuss the state of college football. Let's get right into it, boys. Dan, what's in store for the Giants this season? A lot of change in the offseason.
A lot of change. The biggest question is whether or not it's change for the good. They brought in a whole new coaching staff with a bunch of experience, at least in the lower ranks of that coaching staff. Jason Garrett, offensive coordinator, hasn't called plays in a long time. Going to be calling plays this year. Interesting to see what dynamic he's going to go with. Has he learned anything from the last time he called plays for the Dallas Cowboys as he was the head coach? Patrick Graham, second-year defensive coordinator, coming up from Miami. A lot of growth in that defense over the course of last year. Giants missing a lot of big pieces, a lot of things to work with in that defense. So he's certainly going to have his hands full trying to identify some stars or at least structure a defense that's going to do anything. That's going to be able to stop anybody, which the Giants haven't been able to do in quite some time. I don't think the Vegas over/under totals are looking very good for the Giants. I certainly
What is their
understand
over/under?
I believe it's at a 6. I think the consensus is a 6.
Give me big on the under at 6.
Yeah,
on the under, boys.
Look, I love the Giants. I do like the way Joe Judge certainly talks the talk, the new head coach. But I find it difficult to see how they're gonna hit the over or even get a push. I'm not very optimistic, but Daniel Jones going in the second year, I saw a lot. Christian and I, we always talk about the games and what we're looking for. And I think we certainly agree that we're looking for Daniel Jones to make that second year leap. What are you looking at, Chris, as the big questionable areas for the Giants this season?
So I think I'm more optimistic than you, Dan, and it sounds like both of you. I think they got a lot of good young talent. I'm huge on Daniel Jones. I'm all in on Daniel Jones. I think he's going to be the starting quarterback of the Giants for the next 10 years at least. I loved what I saw last year. He made some throws that you don't see unless it's from the elite Aaron Rodgers type NFL quarterback. So I'm all in on Jones. We all hated the pick when they made it.
Comparing Daniel Jones to Aaron Rodgers, all right. In the preseason of season 2.
He made some throws, okay?
I'm not saying he didn't make throws, but
and you know what? He runs like Aaron Rodgers too. But anyway, so I'm all in on Jones. There's a lot of doubters still out there. There's so many people who panned the pick and said he's going to be a complete bust that people are just going to ride that train to the end with Jones. But I'm willing to admit I was totally wrong about it. The kid can play. And then you look at the rest of the offense. And to me, it all comes down actually to one player, Evan Ingram. The guy can't stay healthy. I don't expect him to stay healthy this year. But I'll tell you what, if he does, he's an absolute stud, and he changes the offense completely. Because if you got Evan Ingram out on the field and you're hitting Barkley out of the backfield, and by the way, Barkley better have at least 90 catches this year. If they don't have 90 catches this year, Jason Garrett should be fired the day this season ends. It's a disgrace when they don't throw him the ball out of the backfield. But if you got Ingram and teams have to focus on a tight end and a running back, that just opens up the wide receivers, right? And they have no depth whatsoever. But you look at Golden Tate, Sterling Shepard, and Darius Slayton. That's not a bad starting. I mean, we got to see what Slayton does.
Can
Slayton
they block anybody? Can they block a single
that's
human
the
being?
second question. That's the second question. So, I mean, can the offensive line be any worse? Could it be worse?
I don't think it can possibly be worse.
No, but a line that bad gets you 3-13.
Yeah, but I don't think it's going to be that bad because I like Andrew Thomas. I think he's going to be serviceable in year one. I think he's eventually
He'll start right away.
Good, but he'll be serviceable. I think Cam Fleming, who they picked up from the Cowboys, I think
that was a big signing. That was a good depth swing tackle type signing.
And
that made a big difference.
I'm going to say this. He might be better than Nate Solder at this point. I mean, Nate Solder has fallen off that much. I'm not going to live or die on that statement, but I think he can play at least as well as Nate Solder could at right tackle. And right tackle, you just need to be okay. I mean, the Giants have been a disaster there for so long. They just need someone to just be okay, and I think this offense can flourish. So then the three middle spots, you got Nick Gates as starting center. He's not played center before, but they like him. They liked him so much they moved him there and gave him the position. And then the guards are pretty good. Zeitler, Zeitler's a top guard in the NFL. So I'm not – if they can just get average, even slightly below average play from the O-line, I think this Giants offense can score a lot of points. Now, you mentioned the defense. The defense is going to be rough. It's just – so I think about that number 6. Actually, that's my number. So I would take the over because I think they can win 6 games. The other problem is – this schedule is brutal. This is and I don't know what you think. This is the toughest Giants schedule I can remember.
I think last year was pretty tough.
Who do they open with? The AFC North. They're open with Pittsburgh. They open with Pittsburgh and they end with their second last game is Baltimore. But then they play the Rams interdivision and the Bucks. So they're supposed to be lined up with the Bucks as another shitty team. And the Bucks go out and sign Tom Brady. Well, that's not how it's supposed to work.
And they got their old friend Jason Pierre-Paul, man, in the defensive line there as well.
Yeah, I mean they've added some defense. I mean I think that team has so much offense with my boy Chris Godwin. Shout out Penn State.
Oh yeah.
I think they're gonna. I mean I'm not in on the Bucks going to the Super Bowl, but Bucks are going to be much better. I mean you add Tom Brady and nothing else, you're going to be better. They've added a lot of talent. And who knows what Gronk's going to bring back. But the schedule is just so – if they had just a regular schedule, like not this insane, death march that they have, I would be all in on the over. But the schedule scares the heck out of me.
And it's a division that's not you have Washington, whatever Washington's going to bring to the table, totally questionable. Yeah. And then they get dealt a shock with their
we're Washington on this podcast, no using the former name. Right.
Oh, of course, I would never dream it.
I've been using that name for years, but let's agree. Washington football team. They've got an opportunity to come up with a cool name there. I doubt that they're going to do it.
They'll screw it up.
100%.
I think
they've already
messed it up. You're the outsider. You're the outsider, Jack, on the Giants. What's your take as an outsider?
I feel like the Giants and the Jets are in a little bit in the same boat here. They have the same problems. They can't block anybody on offense, and they can't cover anybody on defense. The Giants, like the Jets, have kind of band-aided a pass rush together that's worked just enough the past couple of years. They got a bunch of middle linebackers that aren't great, but they do just enough to not be made fun of on television. They can't cover anybody, and obviously their drafting when it comes to the defensive backfield over the past 15 years has been horrific is probably the word to describe it now after the DeAndre Baker mess.
I mean, what are you going to do?
I think you're right.
Hold up a game of cards. Who knew that?
I think the Giants are too off. I think you said it. If Andrew Walker is good from day one and Kevin Zeitler becomes an all-pro again and you find a right tackle, yeah, you're going to score a lot of points. But can the Giants stop anybody? I don't know. If the over-under 6, I'm probably taking the under at 4 or 5 wins. I think the Jets and Giants are going to see each other in the top 6 next year. I don't think the Jets are any better than the Giants are going to be. I think the Jets are going to be worse. I think that Adam Gase's career as an NFL head coach will be over after this season. They have put a lot of eggs in Denzel Mims' basket. He's practiced twice. He pulled a hammy. What
do you think of that pick? Did you like the Mims pick?
I did like the Mims pick. At some point, the New York Jets had to spend some high draft capital on offensive players. I know we've gone through a lot of GMs, and they always said the same thing. We're drafting best player available. And a couple times it sort of made sense for the Jets to do that. When they took Leonard Williams, everybody thought, fine. It's been a lot of defensive linemen, but he is, maybe the most talented guy in this draft. In the end, didn't work so well out. But
it's not working for us either.
I know. And, hey, would love thanks for those draft picks. That was wonderful.
Yeah, you're welcome.
But they needed to spend some draft capital on offensive players, and they finally did it. At the time, Mims was probably my favorite wide receiver left on the board. He is a big guy. That's the one thing the Jets were missing in their wide receiver core. You've got you got plenty of slot size guys. You've got some boundary guys who are going to catch the ball. Your Quincy and Nunwa types. Well, we're going to get into making fun of Quincy and Nunwa. But they needed a receiver. I like Mims there. He immediately gets hurt. Yesterday in practice,
what's he got? I missed it. What's he got?
It's a hamstring. He pulled something. It's a leg injury with a wide receiver known for his speed. Put it this way:
Odell is rookie year. Let me say it before you go on. Let me say on Mims. Yeah. I think that was a great pick. Second. He was talked about in the first round. Second round, you gotta take a chance.
Good value.
I mean, he's a classic. He's going to be one of the best wide receivers in the NFL or complete bust. There'll be no in between with him, but you got to take a chance if you're the Jets. I was surprised, actually, he lasted as long as he did.
Do you want to hear a mind-blowing stats about New York Jets draft history in the second round? If Marcus May re-signs with the Jets after this season, he'll be only the third second-round pick in Jets history to re-sign for a fifth year with the New York Jets. Think about that. They haven't had more than 2 second-round picks stay for 5 years in the history of the NFL draft.
Yeah, and let me say I love the Perryman signing. I think that was a good signing.
I thought it was a nice buy low on a guy who had a really good end of the last season. He's going to be our speed guy. He's the new Robbie Anderson. I don't know how good a shape your career is in if you're being described as the new Robbie Anderson, but we are
never used the old Robbie Anderson properly.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to need him to catch a lot of balls. My one problem with Brashad Perriman, I can't help it. He is a product of the University of Miami, and I cannot pull for University of Miami football players.
Yeah, but you will if he catches,
I'll be happy. That's fine. I'm happy. I root for Darnold despite the fact that he's a USC Trojan. But I think the Jets are going to end up back in the lottery. They are just talent deficient. They're getting there. I think the Becton pick was right. I think Mims in the second round is great. The Jets have 2 in the second round. The Jets have 5 picks in the first 3 rounds next year and 2 first-rounders the year after that. So let's expect to maybe, win 6 this year, and then we're probably 2 years away maybe from being a legitimate playoff team. Got to use these
2
picks.
2 years away from being 2 years away.
The Jets have been 2 years away from being 2 years away since about 1970. So
all right, so let me ask this: Jones, Darnold, came in a year apart, both top 5 picks or top 10 picks, coming into New York. Who you taking if you could pick either one of them today? Same salary, everything. Who you taking? Jones, based on what we've seen.
I fall back to Darnold, and I have this complex that we really did. Dave Gettleman,
the whole show.
Dave Gettleman did Saquon Barkley dirty by drafting him here to sit here for entering the prime years of his career, and the Giants are just lost out at sea. A larger point that I didn't get a chance to get to at the beginning is that this coaching staff is somewhat inexperienced at the top with Joe Judge, the head coach. The Giants continue to be stuck between
experience though on the staff. I mean, they got freaking Brett Bielema as a position coach.
It's they've got
what has Brett Bielema ever done in the NFL? Then
he destroyed Arkansas. That's basically
he's not our biggest claim to fame. He's our outside linebackers coach who just spent a couple of years with Belichick. I'm just saying,
and he almost left,
right? He almost left, but compare Pat Shurmur's staff to this staff, and there's no comparison.
Well, I agree with you.
That staff was a pile of Shurmur, wasn't it?
Yes, it was a big pile of Shurmur, a flaming pile of Shurmur.
I don't want to trash Shurmur on this show. I like Shurmur.
Good guy. He's a good guy. His son is a good
offensive coordinator.
Yeah, he's going to make a great offensive coordinator in Denver.
Judge is not serving as one of the coordinators. I absolutely hate when coaches do that. Shurmur did that. Maca dumbass did that before him. You can't. They're two separate jobs. No human being on earth can do two jobs as well as you can do one job. And I hate
100%.
people, especially first-time coaches, who are arrogant enough to think that they can be the head coach and the OC or DC. So
And
I
the play
love that
caller.
Judge at least comes in self-aware to know that he needs to be the head coach, and he's got some pretty good coordinators. So I agree.
He's too busy making guys run laps to worry about doing two
Wow,
jobs.
hey.
Hey,
You got to make sure they're in good shape.
The
New
news
England
on
South,
Giants,
baby.
the news on Giants training camp for a week running now has been that this new coach really believes in punishing mistakes in training camp. I'm sure you have a lot of depth in the coaching staff this year, but if that's the lead on what's going on right now, instead of Saquon catching passes, you got to wonder how hot a start he's getting off.
Yeah, but compare it to last year. I'm Dan, and Dan, you take this. Compare it to last year and what Shermer said every week.
Well, let me just say that the greater take economy in the sports world is hurting big time now. So they need, some prime take material. And when Joe Judge came out with this sprint stuff, it was like throwing meat out to the sharks. They threw the meat out, and the take economy just kind of did the rest and filled the rest of the space.
Can I ask an important process question for our huge audience listening in? I've actually never played an organized game of football in my life. I've never actually been to a football practice. Is it that out of the ordinary to make guys run for screwing up in a football practice?
When you're paying them millions of dollars, it is.
That's what I figured. It's because they're pros, right? But
Yes.
I mean, Petey Jones ran a mile when he dropped the ball. Shout out TC Williams, which is right down the street from where I'm sitting right now. But no, that's a legit question. Is that so? Yeah. Is that why? Because you don't make pros do that shit?
Yeah,
it seems counterproductive when you make $1 million athletes run laps for making a mistake. I understand the logic behind his.
I mean, doesn't that help their aerobic? It's aerobic exercise, though. It's not like they're cleaning out closets.
I think the resentment factor outweighs any aerobic gains professional athletes might make in doing sprints after making.
How about win some games, Giants, and then you can complain about it.
That's the proof is in the pudding.
I don't want to hear any complaints from a player on this franchise after what they've put us through the past couple of years. Jack, tell us, Darnold or Jones? Who are you taking?
I'm going to go with Matos on this one. I think that Sam Darnold is a really good quarterback who has played on a horrific team the last couple of years. They haven't protected him. I mean, he didn't get sacked 60 or 70 times. It wasn't Deshaun Watson behind that horrific Texans line a few years ago bad. But, he's running for his life. He can make all the throws. He's got some wheels. He's got those sneaky Daniel Jones wheels. He doesn't turn the ball over. He hasn't turned the ball over a lot as a pro. His interception percentage was actually much worse when he was starring at USC in his last season than it has been. I blame it on the Jets. I think Daniel Jones is much better than I thought he was going to be. I thought he was going to be a stiff version of Joe Flacco. Didn't turn out to be. I'm happy for the Giants if they found a quarterback. I think he's going to be the answer there. But if I was starting my own franchise, I think I would pick Darnold if the question was asked today.
Interesting. And I'm going with Jones. You heard me earlier. I'm all in on Daniel Jones. It's not a knock on Darnold. I think Darnold's a good player. He's going to be the Jets quarterback for a long time. Daniel Jones is my guy. I'm riding with him.
You know what I like about Sam Darnold? This kid, he's an LA kid who kind of grew up in the spotlight, high school, at USC. He's the sort of guy who can succeed at quarterback in New York. And I like that about him. He's already proven he knows how to deal with all the nonsense that,
I feel the same way about Jones. He can be like a mild-mannered kid.
Right. He's not going to embarrass us.
He came from Duke. He's certainly not heralded like Darnold was. So I feel the same way. All right, let's go around the horn. Give me your prediction on Giants and Jets record this year. I'll kick it off. The Giants go 6-10 with a brutal schedule. And I think the Jets go 8-8. They got a much easier schedule. I like some of the players they've added. I think they've got some talent at receiver that they haven't had in the past. I don't love some of these trades, but I understand why they did them. But I think the Jets go 8-8. I think they're in it to the end of the season. And, obviously New England's going to fall back a bit. But I think the Jets go 8-8 and the Buffalo Bills win the division. And I'll go NFC East. Everyone's in on Dallas. I don't love Dallas's defense. They're banking on Aldon Smith and Randy Gregory getting approved to play. if that's what you're banking on for your defense, I don't love that. And I just can't get out of my mind Wentz just seriously outplaying Dak Prescott in the next to last game last year when the playoffs were on the line. Winner goes to the playoff, loser goes home. And Dak Prescott, with all the weapons he had, was terrible. Wentz was great with no weapons. So I go Philadelphia Eagles are going to win the NFC East, and the Buffalo Bills are going to win the AFC East. Dan, over to you.
The Giants, again, caught between this. Are we going to finally turn things around, or is this year about growth and learning and teaching and getting our guys, bridging into next year when they hope to make the leap? I think it's another lottery type pick year for the Giants. I think it's 4-12 at the end of the season. I think the Philadelphia Eagles, until I'm proven wrong, are the class of the NFC East. Christian, I agree with you. I just don't see enough from Dallas. With Mike McCarthy there as the new head coach. Dak's situation is resolved, but perpetually unresolved. Now, apparently, they're talking about they're going to add the newly released Earl Thomas into this situation on the back end of their defense. That's another powder keg for them on defense. A lot of personalities and suspensions and all kinds of things going on in that defensive room. So I believe in the Philadelphia Eagles, the continuity that they have. Howie Roseman is a great GM that knows how to put the right pieces on the field. The question is Wentz going to stay healthy? I think he stays healthy enough, and they drafted themselves, as questionable as that pick was, they drafted themselves a decent backup situation with Jalen Hurts, so who knows if he could step in and maybe turn some heads. As to the AFC East with the Jets, I think the Jets fall one game short of that 8-8 mark. I think it's 7-9 for them. Really the big question for them is Gase. I think, quite frankly, a lot of the moves that he makes, the relationships that he maintains with some of his players, and why he chooses to maintain relationships with those players and apparently have no relationship with other players. Very strange situation. I just don't see him getting over the hump as much as the Jets are kind of, loaded in what's an empty at the top with the lack of Tom Brady in New England, AFC East. I'm going to go against the trendy pick with Buffalo as a champion, and I'm going to say that as empty of a space that might be as it was since Tom Brady's left the Patriots, I think the Patriots repeat. And I'll pick the Patriots to win the AFC East until they don't. They've won it so many times. They've dominated. They still got the master Bill Belichick there. Let's see what Cam can do. I don't think Stidham is really a factor at all now. He's hurt. I think it's Cam all the way. And I think Belichick really and Josh McDaniels really turn some heads, creating another new offense and finally getting Cam to live up to that potential that he showed a couple of years ago and kind of got lost in the woods the last couple of years.
Yeah, that's good. But I don't love my Bills pick. I mean, I feel like it's crazy to pick against Belichick, but I like McDermott in Buffalo. I think he's a good coach. I think
he's a good coach. There's no doubt about that.
Good hire.
It's a coin flip for me, but I'm going with the Bills. But I can't disagree with your thoughts.
Question with the Bills is Josh Allen. I mean, Josh Allen is like a wild, Midwestern animal. Like, what is he going to do? He's the total loose cannon.
He's got to stay healthy because, honestly, he just run the ball every play for
right. He's a running back. He's a running back that has a cannon.
Have those DNs just come up the field a little bit, put a little cocoon around him and say, Josh Allen, stand back there and throw the ball 16 yards and hit a receiver in the numbers. I don't think he can. He's running wild on people, but he's going to get T-bowed eventually.
Yeah. Well, don't forget, though, they traded for the pride of Maryland, Stephon Diggs.
That's I know. I thought he made so much sense for the Jets, but they never even got into it. Needed a number one
for anybody except for Minnesota, apparently.
Wanted to come home to the East Coast. The pride of Good Counsel High School in Olney, Maryland, Stephon Diggs, my high school conference. For me, in the NFC East, I'll split the difference with you guys. I think the Giants go 5-11. I think they need a talent infusion on defense. I think Jones and Barkley in that offense are going to grow together. I still think they're a year away from competing for a playoff spot. In the NFC East, I think the Dallas Cowboys are going to win. One, you guys are all on the Eagles jock because you can't get Miles Sanders out of your head. I get it, but they're not that good. They're not that talented.
And they're not that good, but nobody else in the division is.
That's true, but my boy Jalen Smith's going to lead that defense. They're going to do just enough. I think the Dallas offense absolutely explodes this year. The name to watch, I think that Michael Gallup is about to become a NFL superstar. This is the year that happens. It's enough to win the NFC East. What happens after that, I don't know. In the AFC East, I think the Jets are going to be, I want to say 7-9. I'm going to go with 6-10 though. Here's why. Mike White, David Fales, and James Morgan. If Sam Darnold misses any time, a single play, one of those three men will be the quarterback of the New York Jets. It's happened a couple times. If Sam Darnold has to miss any time and we fall into a hole like we did 0-5 last year, we just have
1-7.
Flacco's neck. He's nowhere near to even being cleared for drills.
Pride of Audubon, New Jersey, Joe Flacco.
This worries me. The Jets are probably 2 years away from really competing. I'll go 5-11.
You do that about any team, though. If their starting quarterback goes down, I mean.
Yes, but this is, again, we're talking about David.
What's your call if he stays healthy for 16 games?
Then, that's the difference between 6-10 and 7-9, maybe. I think he stays healthy and they go 6-10. I'm saying that if he doesn't go healthy, they're definitely going to be 6-10 or worse. So
Gase is getting fired, right?
Absolutely.
In your mind? I mean, Gase, he goes 6-10. He's getting
Gase
fired.
may not get – Dan said it. His relationship, he is not a people person, which seems like the sort of thing that you – right, exactly. Isn't people person or not an asshole one of the things that you really look high on a resume for a coach?
I mean, if you win, you can be an asshole.
I understand that. Win. Bill Belichick has perfected the art. But, yeah, Adam Gase was an asshole during his interview when they hired him. They hired him because apparently Peyton Manning put in a good word for him. Gase had 2 great years as Manning's OC in Denver, and that's all he's ever done. Our offense was
Peyton had nothing to do with that. No. No.
Yeah. So. All right, so Gase gets fired in your mind after this season. Who's your desire for the next Jets head coach?
Well, let me just throw in that I think the Patriots win the AFC East. Yep. Cam Newton. I mean, Jared Stidham's not going to start. Cam Newton's going to start. He's an MVP.
Stidham's hurt.
It's absurd that they're having the conversation. So again,
what happened to Stidham is he got hurt. He can bow out gracefully.
As long as Belichick's the coach, you got to pick the Patriots. That's a great question on the Jets. I got to get more up to speed on who the hot young assistants in the NFL are now, because it feels like all the young QB gurus have been hired away now. They're either coaching in Cincinnati or Kingsbury in Arizona. So I don't know what the next what I don't want is another retread, another Adam Gase, a guy who's failed someplace else, had a couple seasons to half rehabilitate his offensive or defensive reputation. I'd love to do this. Greg Williams, pay him all the money in the world. He is as good a defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
I would love
a psychopath in the other respect
to tell. Hey, listen, the bounty program was horrific. I'm not a Saints guy, but I guess he paid his time with the suspension. Pay Greg Williams all the money he wants to be the defensive coordinator. Let him run that side of the building. It works. Look what he did with the talent he had last year. Hire an offensive guru, somebody who can coach a quarterback, and just someone who knows how to call plays. But if you think that Adam Gase, Dole, Loggins, and whoever else we got coaching on the offensive side are the people that turn the Jets' history around, it's not happening in 2020, and that's it for Gase.
Go offer $8 million a year to Lincoln Riley.
So that is exactly who.
Pair him with. Bring him to New York. Pair him with Greg Williams.
He's going to be the number one name. Everyone's going to say that. Is that what it's going to take? $8 million. The Jets have it. The other question you got to worry about, well, I don't know if you have to worry about it with the Jets, but the Woody Johnson situation in London, when he comes back, will that blow over? Will Christopher Johnson remain the owner? I say this only because Christopher Johnson has not done a terrible job in the 3 years that he's been running the Jets. He has finally
stayed out of the way.
He's thrown
He did hire Adam Gase.
Hold on, you're right. He's gotten all the crap out. The one thing he did wrong was he picked Gase, so we got to give him that. But Woody Johnson was Snyderific in his stewardship of the Jets before that. So if Woody wants to stay overseas, I'm fine with that. If he comes back, I'm sure he's going to want to have a say. I'd love for somebody find me a young billionaire who wants to buy the team.
Yeah, but look, the Gase situation is only a reality for the Jets because they got spurned in a very high-profile for New York fashion by Matt Rule before Rule decided to leave Baylor. And
they wouldn't let Rule pick his offensive coordinator, huh? And then
a silly thing. They ended up with Gase, so maybe I think you're right that Gase is gone after this year, so maybe they're already getting their scouting reports together on all the hot assistants. And you can never look at the beginning of the season and pick who the hot assistants are going to be at the end of the year when they're going to be looking at a coaching search. Who would have predicted Robert Saleh would have been such a big head coaching prospect at the beginning of the year, defensive coordinator for the 49ers.
Yeah.
So it's so tough at the beginning of the season to foresee the next steward in charge of those New York Jets on the sidelines. But I think one thing we can all agree on is Adam Gase is not long for this job.
Well, we're a couple weeks away. Let's just pray that we get there and have some football to watch.
We'll get there. We're going to get there. All
right, let's switch over to baseball. Dan, diehard Mets fan, give us your take on the season so far and tell us about your love for one Brodie Van Wagenen.
Well, diehard is an apt description because yes, super agent. He's so super. He's just he might as well go back. He's taking care of all his former clients, so I don't know that he's ever stopped being so super.
Cano's hitting 370.
He's the only guy that's hitting. I give him a lot of grief, but
isn't Cespedes a client as well? Where's he today?
I don't know. I think Cespedes was a Rock Nation guy. I don't think he was a CAA guy. He's still out partying in somewhere in the Bronx, I think. Look, the Mets, perpetual disappointment. I think the biggest development for this season for the Mets is that there's going to be new ownership at the turn of the year. I think as a Mets fan, that's all you could have ever hoped for. I'm a partisan in the sense that I'm looking for Uncle Stevie Cohen to come swooping down with those $14 billion.
That's going to change everything.
Get that organization cleaned out from the top down. Brodie needs to be the first guy ejected into the center of the sun. I recognize that he was hired to do the job the Wilpons wanted him to do. I think the Wilpons realized they were going to sell this team at this point in time. They wanted to gear up and give it one last go. And before their ownership window shut at the end of this year, they wanted to basically trade anything that had any good value away for current major leaguers to try and fortify that roster. It completely blew up in typical Wilpon fashion. They've now got themselves with the albatross of a contract for Robbie Cano, despite the fact that he is or was hitting before they went on their hiatus. Edwin Diaz has been a complete disaster.
Hey, whoa. Edwin is not having a bad season.
No.
Edwin Diaz?
Have you looked at his numbers? He's having a good year.
I have not studied the Mets numbers yet in this fake baseball season.
Look, I watch every single game for the Mets. Edwin Diaz is a heart attack waiting to happen. True. Even when he pitches well, if you watch him from pitch to pitch, even when he's pitching well, he drives you nuts because he is one of those types of pitchers that has electric stuff, absolutely electric, but he really has no idea where it's going. His fastball, and you can usually tell, Ron Darling says it on the Met broadcast all the time, you can usually tell by the first one or two pitches whether or not he's got it going on. If his fastball starts floating outside the zone, then he has a tough time with the slider, and he can just put guys on base, and he gives up a lot of home runs because a lot of guys just sit on his flat as an arrow fastball and turn it around into the seats.
But it's a results business, right? I hear you, but he's got a 2.50 ERA. He's got 24 strikeouts and 10.
Well, they stuck him in lower leverage.
It was a terrible trade.
They stuck him in lower leverage situations for a couple of weeks. He got his stuff back together. They put him back in later innings, and he did get a save the other day right before they waited until the end of the game to tell everybody that they were going to move Seth Lugo out of the bullpen and back from the rotation. I
love that Lugo said, I hate being an opener, and now they've made him an opener.
And look, Jay Horowitz may have left the Mets public relations
PR maven Jay Horowitz.
But the Mets are constantly stung by these PR mishaps and communication errors like the Cespedes disappearance / opt-out, the great saga of 2020. And now this mess where they basically wait until the end of the game to admit that they were going to put Seth Lugo in the rotation.
Speaking of PR,
and for what? I don't know.
Speaking of PR debacles, can I go back to one thing real quick? I do think that ownership is obviously the biggest issue for the Mets, and a change will be a big thing. This is the East Coast Biased podcast, so I think I'm allowed to bring this up because it's probably the action will take place in the Southern District of New York. But how many times has Steve Cohen been investigated by the SEC so far?
Look, He's been investigated a lot.
I'm just asking, can this backfire on the Mets in a most Metsian fashion sometime in the next decade?
I think he's already a minority owner of the team. So he's already been screened, and this was after he had those issues. So he's already been screened and approved for ownership by Major League Baseball. I don't buy a lot of the winds that are blowing in the PR, because it seems to me that a lot of that comes from the A-Rod side. A-Rod, I think, is a more, let's call it manipulative part of the situation, manipulating the media for his bid. Let me just say that if A-Rod is truly the controlling owner, I think that's a bad situation for the Mets. I don't think they're going to have enough cash to buy the team and then put it back into the team to field a competitive team within the next couple of years. I think it's going to look a lot like what happened down in Miami with Bruce Sherman and Derek Jeter.
Yeah, who is A-Rod's Bruce Sherman? Because they don't
got a bunch of them.
They don't really have one.
Okay, he's got, it's not J-Lo's cash that's buying the team.
They got a bunch of
money. No, he's got Vinny Viola, who's the owner of the Florida Panthers.
He owns the Panthers.
And he's also got Mike Rapoli, who is he was the guy who came up with vitamin water, and is a local guy. So Rapoli is a lifelong Mets fan. So they have that going for him as well. And Stevie Cohn, Uncle Stevie, is also a lifelong Mets fan. But the biggest difference for me is that Stevie's got the cash on hand. And he's committed to winning, and I think he's just going to be willing to, as soon as he possibly can, put all the money into changing all the things, maybe not necessarily on the field, because the Mets have always had high payrolls, never really justify it when the results come out.
Yeah.
But they do put money into putting players on the major league field. I think it's all those other things that go into field and baseball team, player development, scouting, all that other stuff. I think Uncle Stevie can come in and just crush cash and all that stuff and get them to be what the Dodgers are. I think the Dodgers are the class of Major League Baseball these days. And that's, I think, what the model that I think Uncle Stevie and the Mets need to follow.
Yeah, but all right.
Class of baseball. Come on now.
They got some talent, right?
They win. They haven't won the World Series, but they're there every year. They do whatever it takes to fix whatever is wrong.
Talking about the Mets.
I'm talking about the Mets.
Oh.
The Mets.
Oh, well.
The Mets got Alonso. Conforto's having a good year.
Jacob deGrom is the best pitcher in baseball.
Well, deGrom, but Dom Smith is finally living up to his potential. What's going on with Rosario, though? He's been terrible.
Yeah, what's the on-field problem for the Mets?
Rosario.
What's going on with Rosario? He's been terrible.
But he's so young. I mean, I don't even think the guy's 24 years old yet. He's got to get some more time to kind of grow. He's an aggressive guy at the plate.
Juan Soto's 21 and a half.
Yeah. Look, Juan Soto's don't come around all the time. And the Mets certainly don't have the talent in their minor leagues to develop. Yeah, and the Mets never develop guys like that. They basically just get these guys as is. And kind of just let them get their experience in the minors, and then they come to the majors and don't really change a whole significant amount.
But the clock's on them, right? Because the two of their top prospects are shortstops. So it's time put up or shut up for Rosario, because he's going to lose his job to one of these prospects.
Well, but a lot of these guys, when they come up as middle infield prospects, they're shortstops. They have nice, strong arms. You can throw them over at third base. You can throw them over at second base. The question is whether or not they're going to hit. Jimenez has hit so far. He's looked good. I would prefer for him to be the starting shortstop over Ahmed Rosario, but Rosario certainly deserves every chance to kind of grow into that role. It's just that I think Jimenez's defense is worlds better than Rosario. At any point.
No. And they got the guy that's their top prospect,
Mauricio, who is probably better. I think he's a better fielder and a better hitter than Rosario or Jimenez, but he's a little bit, even though they just added him to their player pool, I think he's ways away. But I think the big problem for the Mets is again, going back to this quixotic quest from Brodie Van Wagenen to get this team competitive and maybe winning before the Wilpons window shut. They traded away all their now would be top-level starting pitching depth, and it really shows. Having to Band-Aid it by making bad signings for Wacha and Porcello this year. Originally, when the season started out, they were going to be depth guys, maybe swingman in the bullpen. And now it turns out they're desperately needed, and Porcello is just god-awful, and Wacha's hurt.
And Wheeler's killing it in Philly.
The Mets are still a game better than the Nats, though. They're not.
That's why I said they got talent.
They're not the Pittsburgh Pirates.
They got talent. The Mets are not far away.
Yeah.
They can hit, and when they hit, They hit really well. They've got a great prospect who doesn't get enough time, never gotten enough respect or enough playing time, in Dominic Smith, who I think is a stud, and they've never made any room for him.
I mean, the DH was what a godsend to so many teams, but especially the Mets.
I think
but again, it's all by accident with the Mets. Cespedes was originally blocking up that spot. Now it's freed up for Dominic Smith to get playing time, which he should have had from the beginning. It's the same thing with Cano. The Mets didn't believe in Robbie in Jeff McNeil to be a starting second baseman, so they go out and get Robbie Cano, and they leave McNeil without a job. Well, it turns out McNeil is a really good offensive player on a team that needs offense to win, and that's the reason why the Mets do as well as they do, and they're doing as well as they are this year, if you can call it well.
And
is because of the offense.
Certainly didn't believe in Jared Kalenic enough because
please,
I was listening to Sirius.
Let's put that on the Washington football team. Let's put that on the X list.
Top 5 prospect in all of baseball. So Brodie, although Cano is hitting, Brodie screwed that one up. But let's give him some credit, right? He's gone. He's getting fired, no doubt about it. But I'm surprised he didn't trade Don Smith, held on to him, and now Don Smith living up to potential. So give him a little credit there. But
if he had his druthers, I think he would have.
He's going to kill the Mets for a decade at least.
Wow. And he did get J.D. Davis, and that was quite a find. So that's a good one for him.
He hasn't. I mean, he's not the worst general manager in history, right?
I think the Kalenic trade gives him a strong boost. He's right there with Dan Duquette.
That's going to be one of the worst trades in baseball history for sure.
I just think the academic staff of Penn State University would be so proud of you for using Quixotic in a sports broadcast.
I use that
correctly.
Word any chance I can get. Any chance. Oh, just wait. Now this is only episode 1, Jack. I got words for days.
In Central PA, I just thought you went to your beer distributors.
All right, Jack.
Words for days.
Any final words on the Mets from either of you?
Again, the Mets, I think they're pretty talented. Yeah, they've got players. I just don't. They never seem to be able to put it all together. Obviously, the Wilpons' inability to sign free agents that have made a difference, doesn't help. But I think new ownership's going to make a big difference. Jacob deGrom is just incredible to watch, a world-class pitcher. If you can't build a winning staff around having a guy like that and a secondary pitcher like Thor, you know what I mean? Like, that's what I would have done too. I don't know what to tell you. So maybe it's new ownership, tear down team. You keep Alonso and you bring up one of these shortstops and you go from there. I will say I do enjoy watching the Mets because you never know what's going to happen. Also, the Mets' new manager's last name is Rojas. But he's an Alou?
He's an Alou.
Yeah.
I like the Alou. Okay.
He wants to be his own man, so he went with.
I love him. I'm a big fan of Felipe Alou, so that'll make me pull for the Mets. The Mets are a game up on the Nats right now, so you can complain, but again, you're not 3-25. The Nats were able to pull out a win today, but we look like the 19-31 Nats of 2019, not like the World Series champion Nats of.
Let's put it this way: when the Mets play the Miami Marlins, they look like world champions. When they play anybody else, that's been the hard part so far this year.
What's going on?
You bring up the Nats. Let's. What are you feeling? Like, do you feel robbed as a fan that you haven't been able to properly celebrate the World Series with COVID?
It's a good question. This season to me feels like an exhibition season. 60 games, 7-inning doubleheaders. It's like watching a slow pitch softball league that lasts a little longer. So I'm excited I get to watch baseball, but it doesn't feel the same. I don't feel robbed. I was there. They won the World Series. You guys have had teams win titles in your lifetime. Baseball is, maybe my one true love. And when it comes to sports, that is, let me make sure that's on the record. But I don't feel robbed. But the one thing I do miss is I didn't get to go to an opening day this year where there was a ceremony and they put the banner up and everybody has a great time. I was really looking forward to that opening day sort of stuff. Didn't get to have it happen. But, I wouldn't trade any of it for we got a World Series champion.
I was thinking about that earlier.
Can't take that away.
Let's hope we're back to normal opening day 2021. Let's just assume we are for sake of argument.
The first Nats opening day I ever missed was this year.
I think they have the celebration then. I think on opening day 2021, there will be 2 teams celebrating with their fans World Series championships.
That's fine. And
I agree with you. And I think it's an important part of that to celebrate it with your fans. So I certainly wouldn't think that would be out of bounds. And I think
How many
everybody
titles,
would be fine with that.
How many World Series titles does how many asterisks are going on this year's World Series titles though?
Yeah, it doesn't feel.
Can we
Dan,
agree
you
that
and I
this is
talked
not the
about this at the beginning
same?
of the season. I- it's not going to feel the same for me. And maybe because I'm a Yankees fan. We'll get to them in a minute. But and we've got a lot of championships even in my lifetime. But I imagine for you, Dan, if the Mets win, it will feel normal. But for me, I don't think it's going to feel normal. It's just not a normal season. It won't feel like they really won the World Series to me.
Dan, were you old enough to be sentient when the Mets won the '86 series? Do you remember it?
I was 3 years old. I had just recently moved into the house that I grew up in. My parents, my sister and I moved there. And no, I have no memory. My earliest sports memory is the Scott Norwood kick on wide right. That is my earliest sports memory. I can remember exactly what I was doing and where I was and what was going on when I watched that happen.
I even remember where I was.
But 86 is 86 is memorabilia.
I was hiding in the bathroom. I couldn't watch it.
Yeah.
I actually didn't see it.
Scott Norwood, we know where he lives. He's a Northern Virginia resident. He lives out in Centerville.
Yeah, he's a good guy. There was a great somebody, I don't know, was it 30 for 30? Someone did a doc on him in the past couple of years, and he's a really good dude.
I think uber talented reporter Luke Mullins might have done a thing on Washingtonian saying before after. So
there was a show on it too. But he's just a good dude. The way he handled that. Shout out Scott Norwood, fellow Northern Virginian. You're a good man.
Send me the address. I'll send him a gift basket.
So Jack, what's going on with the Nats? Are you so trade deadline's 8 days away? Are you buying? Are you selling and preparing for next year?
Oh, I'm buying, a little bit. I'm buying a little bit. I'm going to the market to see what kind of steaks they have tonight. And if I like the looks of one, I'm taking some home. But I'm not going.
We're looking for bullpen arm steaks. Is that the kind of?
Mike Rizzo's proven that he likes to construct a bullpen by adding parts, during the season. Now, the funny thing, of course, is that this year the bullpen hasn't really been the problem for the Nats. They scored 2 runs or less in 11 games already this year. So the offense, not only do they need a bat, they haven't been able to get everybody healthy at the same time. So, they missed Soto at the beginning of the year. And, at this point, Juan Soto is, as good a left-handed hitter as baseball has probably.
He's a good hitter, period.
I mean, the pride of Millville, New Jersey is still the best hitter in the game, in my opinion. But that's Mike Trout for all you people who don't know South Central Jersey geography as well as this group of biased East Coasters. But the Nats haven't been able to have everybody healthy on the same night. If you get me Soto and Kendrick and Robles and Cabrera, everybody playing in the same lineup, they're pretty good. And you put that behind Corbin or Scherzer, you're going to win a lot of games. Strasburg missing the rest of the year. That's going to be big. The bullpen could use one arm, but Christian's right. I think they need a bat. It'd be nice to maybe plug somebody in at first base instead of, they're putting it together with Kendrick and Eric Thames and Cabrera. But Cabrera could stay at second base if they could bring in a first baseman. Kyle Seager out in Seattle is also available. There's a guy that could come in and play third base for them, move him over to first base if you need to. Otherwise, the Nats are going to be playing 2 rookies every day for the rest of the season. I'm not worried about the Nats' future. They got a lot of talent and a lot of young talent at the major league level. The minor league pipeline needs some rebuilding. The problem with the Nats is that Mike Rizzo is a free agent as soon as this season's over. And as the Washington Capitals learned the hard way this week, letting leadership go who have actually won championships, I don't know that that's smart. They got to find a way to keep Rizzo around, and I don't think they're going to.
Yeah, I agree.
You want to talk about South Jersey pride? Big loss for them this year, and that Sean Doolittle, who
never really Shawnee High School
never looked right to begin with. Went down, and who knows when he's coming back. But, you say they don't have much in the pipeline. They got that second baseman, Garcia.
Oh, he's there. He's there.
He's playing every day. Luis Garcia is incredible. He looks like he's a Juan Soto clone. He bats the same. He jogs the same. He's got the same swing.
That's a bit of high praise.
No, I'm just when I say clone, I didn't say he's as good as, but he's 6'2".
Oh, yeah, okay, all right, I got you.
He's not a little second baseman. He's not Whit Merrifield. He's a big dude.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, if they let Rizzo walk, what's your anger levels? 10 being, nuclear.
All right. So if we hadn't won a World Series, it would be 10. But since we're going to be in the 5-year grace period for your team winning a championship, I got to take a few points. I'll probably be at about a 7.5 and an 8.
Wow.
I know it's stupid. I can't forget the fact that I know it's stupid, but we got a World Series. I'm not going to overlook that. He did it, and I'm not going to turn on Mike Rizzo.
Wow. Okay. All right. Unexpected answer there.
Yeah. Mark my words. If Rizzo leaves
going to the New York
Washington,
Mets,
and Uncle Stevie Cohen wins the Mets, you can look for that to be the first bold move that he's going to make.
And Uncle Stevie, if you're out there watching, give us a call.
I know he likes to just watch random podcasts, just kind of.
We'd love to have
go
you
down through the list. When you're 14, when you're a multi-billionaire, you got nothing but time to
you're getting crushed in the media, and even though Jack crushed you by bringing up the SEC BS, we love you.
Get it, Uncle Stevie. I'm on your side.
Have you on the show.
I'm on your side.
It's not like I'm a crisis public relations professional or anything like that.
We don't talk about our real lives on this show. Let me talk about the Yankees real quick. I don't see any way they win the World Series. The pitching, just somehow they signed Garrett Cole, who's been amazing. Pitching is still a disaster. I love Cashman. Cashman, you say Rizzo's the best. I say Cashman's the best GM in baseball. And just holding on to that job for as long as he had in the Yankees is just unbelievable, but he doesn't get enough credit. I love the team that he's put together. It's not your early 2000s Yankees with a bunch of, 35-year-olds making $40 million. Stanton's our oldest player. He's 30. Everyone else is in their early to mid-20s. They're going to be good for a long time. But I would be on the phone right now with the Indians trying to get Clevenger.
Can the Nats get in on that? Yeah.
Do the Yankees want to take on that
yes.
complex
they have
situation?
The pitching. And he's so good. Honestly, I'd be trying to get both of them, Clevenger and Plesac. I'd say we'll start with Frazier and Andujar. Tell us what you want. It's yours. Go get both of them. They need the pitching. The lineup will be fine.
Who is actually –
I love Frazier, but I'd be – and if they can't get him, I'm going Lance Lynn from the Rangers, who's just a really solid starter. And he's not a game changer, but we just need pitchers.
Who's healthy for the Yankees right now?
Nobody, but they keep winning. So
of their 10 regulars,
most of them. And man, to talk about how good Cashman is, I just can't believe we got this guy Luke Voigt for literally a bag of baseballs. The Cardinals didn't want him.
Hey, Chasen Shreve is looking great for the Mets this year, right?
He's an MVP candidate. He's hitting 315 with 10 bombs. He's unbelievable. Luke, I love you, man. But
shout out to stay healthy, though. Gotta stay healthy.
Shout out Kevin Moss. Let's give a little shout out to Kevin Moss. That's what I think of when I see Luke Voigt's silky smooth swing. With
him, Ken Griffey Jr. baseball. But Judge is back. Whenever they start playing again, Judge is already back. And honestly, you know what? I like Stanton. Obviously, we wouldn't do the trade again if knowing what we know now. Although it's hard to turn down the reigning NL MVP for nothing. Except for money, even with the Marlins paying some of their salary. But clearly we wouldn't do that trade again. And honestly, if he misses, I love Clint Frazier. So if we don't trade him, I'm fine with Clint Frazier being in his spot every day. That kid is unbelievable. He can't play the outfield. Although he's getting a little better, but his bat is electric.
That defense is bad.
Yeah, it is bad. But, man, put him at DH and let him rake.
It's non-starter bad, though, right? They can't put him out there.
No, he's been playing. He's improved. He's been playing. They put his bat is so good. I don't care how many runs he gives up defensively.
Can he DH in the American?
Yeah, no, he is. He's playing both. Because they got Sanchez. They move the DH sometimes. Luke Voigt to give him a day off. They move him to the DH. But I love where the Yankees are for the future. But I don't see any way they win the World Series with that pitching. I just think there's teams out there, including the Indians. If the Indians can get a bat at the deadline, I mean, they have so much pitching, including
they bring guys up and they throw 10 strikeouts.
Who's this guy, Shane Bieber? I mean, who is this guy? Is he Justin's brother?
You want to talk about?
He's the best pitcher in baseball.
He was a Canadian pop star until he got into
Adam Plutko, Savali. They just bring guys up. I think they just give them names when they come into the majors, and they
know
just
how to-
throw out there and they throw bullets.
Coach pitching in
I
Cleveland.
mean, holy
It wasn't
shit.
Mickey Callaway, I can tell you that.
They don't know how to keep them in their hotels, but they know how to teach them how to pitch.
That's true, but Mr. Bieber stays in his hotel, so kudos to him.
Can I just note here that the two Yankee targets that you picked for possible starting pitchers is Mike Clevenger and Lance Lynn, two of the un-Yankee lookiest starting pitchers you can ever
Lynn's
get
got a
in
big
Major
Yeah,
League
Lance will
Baseball.
have to get some serious
He's got
haircutting.
a big
Cole
beard.
had a beard.
Clevenger's got long hair. I mean, he puts me to shame.
Yeah, I don't
He's
know.
got long hair, goes down to his shoulder. Those guys are going to have to be in for some big life changes to become.
So Clevenger strikes
the
me as a guy who would actually say, "I'm not going to New York because I'm not cutting my hair," because he's clearly an asshole.
And then you don't want him though if he's
100%.
that sort of guy because then he's out of his gourd.
You're telling me Lance Lynn is not shaving that beard to go from the Texas Rangers to the Yankees?
I'm pretty sure he's a free agent at the end of this year. So I'm
He's
sure
a big dude. Looks like he's got a baby face. Shave that beard. Lance, come up to New York. Let's win a World Series.
He'll trim that beard before they even finish the word Yankees.
We're not going to talk about it because Arlington, Texas is not East Coast biased. But how about the fact that the Rangers moved into a brand new stadium this year after moving into a brand new stadium that had absolutely nothing wrong with it in 1994?
Oil money.
One that looks like a grill, too.
Incredible.
Drill, baby, drill. All right. Before we move on to college football, I want to throw a question out. Let's stipulate Mike Trout's the best player in baseball. Who today is the second best player in baseball? Jack?
So this is today, right now, who's the second best player, not who I'd want to build.
I'm not asking you who the best player was 5 years ago.
Okay.
Talking about today.
I mean, this goes against everything and I believe in and that this podcast stands for and that America stands for. But is Cody Bellinger not? I'm sorry, not Bellinger. Yeah, it's Cody Bellinger from the Dodgers. Is he not
First
the best player in baseball?
Wow, that's not.
I know.
Wow.
I know Mookie's, the other option. Bellinger had a better year last year. Was worth a lot more.
Yeah, but he's been terrible this year.
He's got off to a rough start, but he's a little bit younger. And the other name that I think Christian Yelich may be the most underrated player in baseball.
Wow, he's having a terrible season too.
He's coming around recently.
Really surprised me. Okay,
but I gotta go with Bellinger. I mean,
not a crazy answer, Dan.
Mookie Betts, no doubt about it. No ifs, ands, or buts. And if I'm going to be bold, I'm going to say it's a 1A and 1B situation. Amazing again, I understand we're East Coast bias, as Jack said before, but got to give a little bit of props to the West Coast, specifically Los Angeles, for having the two best baseball players, players on the planet in their city. What a great time to be a Dodgers or an Angels fan. But it's Mookie Betts, no doubt about it. And I was heartbroken when the Dodgers inked him to that mega extension because that was going to be the second bold move that Uncle Stevie was going to make, was a nice big contract for Mookie and the Mets.
Can we just talk about this briefly since Trout's from Millville and that makes him East Coast adjacent or allowable?
He did.
I think people don't realize what they're watching happening. The first 8 years of Mike Trout's career are
agreed.
Ruthian, DiMaggio, Mantle, Gehrig, Mays-like. The fact that he hasn't won 5 MVPs by now is because the whole system is screwy. It's about who's hot and in the papers when they have their good season. And if he played in any other time zone, I think people would realize this. But there is absolutely no chance that Mookie Betts is as good as Mike Trout is.
You go back and look at those. You go back and look at those
I'm
statistics.
not saying that as
you're in the running for most ridiculous take of the show. Jack, I agree with everything you said.
But
you know what? I don't feel bad for him.
That is it.
I don't feel bad for him because, as the name of the show says, he made a horrible, absolutely horrible decision signing that extension. He should have come to the East Coast so people could properly appreciate what he's doing. I can't believe he signed that extension, but I agree with you. We're not taking it we're all taking it for granted.
I mean, he could have had Bryce Harper's contract plus
fucking night.
He maintains his East Coast bona fides. By the way, a diehard Philadelphia Eagles fan, still supports the Philadelphia sports scene, and it was almost as good that he signed that contract with the Angels because it really broke the hearts of Philadelphia Phillies fans. That made me feel a little bit good. So he loves good in that respect.
We're pro anything that's anti-Philly.
He loves the Eagles so much, he built his offseason home in his hometown of Millville, New Jersey.
It's true. It's true. And
I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to say anything
tickets.
about Millville, New Jersey, except for shout out Jim's Lunch. But it's not where most
we're getting ridiculous with
billionaires would choose to live.
No more shout outs of your lunch place.
It's the most shout outs Millville's ever had.
Dan, you are correct. The answer today is Mookie Betts. But I believe when we get to episode 7, 8, 9, maybe, the answer will change. Because the battle for third place right now is between Juan Soto and Fernando Tatis Jr. If you ask me who the third best player is, I couldn't give you an answer. They're both amazing. I lean towards Tatis. I know the analytics guys hate his defense. I think it's just because he's young. He's got every tool in the box to be the best, to be one of the best shortstops in baseball. But I will say this.
Are we leaving pitchers out here, or are we talking position players or everybody?
Whatever you think. There's no position. There's no pitcher who could, in my opinion.
I would have thought
you can't be the best player in the game if you play every 5 days.
Okay, I thought maybe Garrett Cole could have been third there with the.
No, I mean, yeah, he's probably. He's top 10, but he can't be top 5. But by episode 7, 8, or 9 of this show, whenever we do it, Fernando Tatis Jr. or Juan Soto will be the second best player in baseball. That's no knock on Mookie. I just think both of them are just unbelievable players. I can't believe what Juan Soto's doing. Tatis, we all knew about. He's been coming forever. Nobody knew about Juan Soto to this level.
I'm going to guess the total number of full San Diego Padres games watched by this little group right here is 0 for the 2020 season.
I watched last night's game. All right, they hit 6 home runs. They were killing the ball.
I've never seen him play a whole game. I know he's good.
I have the MLB package, and he is so good. And we're all staying up later, I think, with COVID. And I've watched some games, and especially weekend games. He is that good that he's gotten me to watch. I'll tune in and try and find his at-bat. He is unbelievable. And him and Soto are just, when Trout, a couple of years, they're the two best players in baseball. No doubt about it in my mind.
So you're down on Acuna?
Yeah, I know. I love Acuna, but he's not as
and he's
good
hurt
as
now
Soto
too.
Or Tatis. I mean, he's a top 10 player, I think, maybe top 15, but there's no shame, and I'm not knocking him. It's just Soto and Tatis are that good.
Let me just say that
Mookie gets it because Mookie is, probably the best, second best defensive outfielder in baseball as well. So he does it at the plate and in the field. And
5 tools.
Tatis and Soto need to improve their defense, both of them. Although Soto's not terrible, he doesn't have the athleticism of these other guys, but they need to improve their defense to get up to where Mookie is.
Let me just say, having watched Juan Soto destroy the Mets for 3 days straight about 2 weeks ago, he is, I agree with you, he's a future star. He's already a star, but he's a future superstar. Easy to like, even if you're rooting for the opponent. The mannerisms he has at the plate, the obvious love that he has for the game at such a young age. He's even said a couple of lines about his mom and stuff like that. I think he was talking about that during COVID. He just seems like a real genuine, down-to-earth kid, loves playing the game, has those funky kind of goofy mannerisms when he steps out of the box and kind of like, looks at himself, looks off in the air and kind of talks to himself. It's good to see. I like it a lot. And even from the opposing fans' perspective,
baseball
I recognize
that. And how about Tatis?
Absolutely.
Tatis gets killed every other day for something. Let the kids play.
Ridiculous.
100%.
The major leagues. I'm sorry. It's a 6-run game. What, are you supposed to take those pitches because the Texas Rangers are incapable of scoring 6 runs in an inning? Come on.
The unwritten rules are unwritten because if they wrote it down in a book, they'd burn it already. They'd burned it already years ago.
And talking about Soto and the Mets, and I think last week when they were playing the Nats, I think I texted you every 30 minutes saying, I can't believe they're still pitching to Soto. And they
kept throwing him strikes.
Kept pitching to him.
They kept throwing. You got to see the spray chart of where all of Soto's homers have landed since he came up. It goes
robbed the one
pole to pole. It's incredible.
Yeah, he's an outstanding hitter. There's no two ways about it.
Right. He is, Harper for years. You could still get him out on that slow junk to the far outside corner. he would, early every time, thinking he was going to get another fastball. Soto can't fool him with that pitch. It hasn't ever worked. And if you can't throw that to them, you're certainly not going to bust him. There's nobody that's going to come across as a righty to bust him inside.
That's a difference in swing mechanics, I think, because just Bryce Harper's left-handed swing is one of the ugliest things I've ever seen in my entire life.
All launch angle for Bryce Harper. He's trying to hit a ball as high as he can. Knows it's going to.
He gets his torque into it, but oh my God, is that ugly?
Yeah. So NL East is interesting. They're all bunched up.
Who wins the NL East? I mean, I think the Braves are going to win it.
I got it. It's definitely not going to be the Mets. I think this interruption is going to.
I mean, the Braves are 17-9, and Nats are 11-14. They're already, they're not right behind them. I don't.
I guess what I would say to both of you is
there's only 30 games left, guys.
That's true. Season's half over on Thursday.
I'd say to both of you, just be glad you're not Phillies fans. I don't know what they're doing. They don't have anything. They've got Harper and Real Muto.
They've got that Harper giant contract.
They have to pay Real Muto $35 million a year. So going to next season, they'll be paying Harper and Real Muto over $70 million to just two players, and they have nothing else. Hoskins sucks. I mean, they keep touting all the
sucks. Isn't good. Yeah, none of them.
I'll say this for them. This kid that they just called the third baseman, Bohm, he actually looks like the first decent prospect who could fulfill the Phillies' expectations. The problem with the Phillies is you look back the last couple of years, they just kept bringing up all these high prospects, and these guys could never play. Kingery, they gave him that massive contract.
Dominic Brown was horrific.
Michael Franco was a bust.
Mickey Moniak is going to be a bust. The guy they took first overall in 2017, he's already a minor league bust.
Roman Quinn in center field is not much to write home about. Rhys Hoskins, not much to write home about. I mean, they got Real Muto and Harper, and Real Muto probably isn't going to be long because he's looking at those dollar signs.
Yeah, but how about this? The
Uncle
guy
Stevie,
that
if you're listening.
Sixto Sanchez is not going to be a bust.
No, he shut down the Nats yesterday for
six pitches over 100 miles per hour, I think, 5 or 6.
Yep.
So, I mean, yeah, I agree, Dan. There's a chance someone's going to outbid them for Real Muto, and he's going to be gone. They didn't win jack shit, and Sixto Sanchez is going to be a great pitcher in Miami.
If Real Muto hasn't already agreed to stay there, I don't think they have much of a chance to sign.
And I have Joe Girardi. I love you, Joe.
I have no problem with the cursing, but I'm going to appeal to not using jack shit on this particular podcast.
Yeah, fair point.
Fair point.
All right, boys, let's finish it up with college football. I have absolutely no idea what's going on, what anyone is doing on playing, not playing. Jack, what are your thoughts on the crazy?
One quick point of order. You're going to get a lot of Notre Dame football talk out of this podcast. They're honorary East Coasters.
Well, if they're going to play, we got to talk about them because
they're going to play. So that's
in the Atlantic Coast Conference now.
So I'm sorry. So
part of the craziness.
These schools that have now, Notre Dame included, have sent their kids back to all online learning. I just can't imagine a scenario where we take college kids, send all the students away because it's not safe for them to be there, have the football team come there, and then travel all around playing other football teams. It seems – I'm not a doctor. I'm not an but it doesn't seem safe health-wise. But also, while it doesn't follow the letter of the rules, it really seems like it breaks the spirit of the rules to me. Just to have some of the teams play when there's no college going on and no fans and no tailgating and they don't have to go to a single class. I mean, let's call them pros at that point because that's what they are.
Yeah, but you say that, but
I just think they should.
People are on campus, so I don't understand.
I think they should.
Hell, the Big Ten is doing.
I don't either, but they should. I'm glad.
Let me get this straight.
Shut it down.
Let me get this straight. All the students are going to be on campus. The football team's on campus. They're practicing every day. They're doing their study halls. They're in the locker room. They're in the training room. They're lifting together. So they can do all that. And in fact, the Big Ten is making a big push. I think it's this week. They want more hours because I believe when you're not playing, you're restricted to 12 hours of practice time. They're petitioning for 16 hours of practice time. So they're trying to get more time to have all the players together. So you can do all of that, but you can't play games against other teams who are following the same protocols. I don't care. Cancel the season and keep the players at home, keep them off campus, or bring them on and play the damn games. But to practice, so they can be
practice
together all week.
I know.
To play a game on Saturday, that is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. And I am now hoping the other conferences get through their seasons, and I hope people lose their jobs, because that is how bad this is. I shouldn't say that. I don't know if anyone loses their job, but I hope they realize how big they screwed up, because it makes no sense.
It doesn't make
Have
any
them
sense.
on campus and play, or if it's not safe, and I have no idea, none of us are doctors. If it's not safe, I'll take your word for it. Send them home.
So this is super up inside baseball, but we can say this because we all attended what are now Big Ten schools. The Big Ten has the most schools that are members of the American Association of Universities. That's how they're accredited. It's the highest accreditation bureau possible for large universities and state universities.
But we're not surprised as Big Ten graduates.
Of course we're not. And that really is one of the factors that played into, I think the Big Ten said, we're not going to have a football season that doesn't involve academia or academics at all. And they did a really poor job of explaining it, but that played into it. I don't care.
How's it not gonna involve academia?
Well, I know they don't believe that the quality of education in an all online system would be the same as if they were doing it their way. Like Penn State University wants their kids on campus so they can teach them properly. And if they can't do that, I think these Big Ten schools that take school seriously don't want to have kids just playing football when there's really not school to be had. I'll tell you,
so they're not doing quality education.
And I don't think they give a shit
about
that.
Still going to charge you $50,000.
That's why they brought the kids back.
I don't think they give a shit about school so much in Ames, Iowa, or Manhattan, Kansas, or in Clemson, South Carolina, even though the ACC shut it down. But the SEC and Big 12 schools, Ole Miss is more willing to have a football season and not classes than Michigan or Ohio State or Rutgers is. It's that simple. And I'm proud of the Big Ten for it. I think they should cancel the season. Myocarditis, now we're talking about heart conditions. This is all just nonsense.
All right, Dan, Jack is saying the Big Ten is not playing football because these partially because these institutions care so much about academics.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yes.
I think that's horsepucky. I think this whole entire endeavor is all about the removal of all pretext. And let's just admit that this is essentially the pros. We're all making money off of these athletes who really aren't getting a dime in the grand scheme of things. Why the Big Ten made the decision they made, I don't know. I would like to think that it's because, Christian, as you kept saying before, we're not doctors. I would like to think that somewhere there is a group of doctors that the Big Ten kind of leaned in, and their recommendation was, yeah, you shouldn't play football in the fall with your member schools. And that's where they went. It seems like there's a shortage of listening to the doctors and the experts going on. So again, I'd like to think that that's why the Big Ten really has decided to sit this one out. And let me say that they're sitting this one out, and they're definitely sitting the spring out, because I don't think there's any way they're going to be playing football for a spring season. The NFL won't want it. They're going to play themselves, I guess.
Well, they're doing all conference schedules anyway.
Yeah, they'll just play all conference, and there'll be no payoff at the end of the year. But I don't think that's happening.
Semi-pro teams from the Chicago suburbs of adults.
They're all playing all conference schedules anyway. So I agree, it's not going to happen. But if it could happen, they would just play the Big Ten teams. That's what they're planning to do in the fall.
I know.
It'd be all freshmen because no draft eligible players.
Someone would top the Mookie Betts in the Mike Trout
Telling you.
last take.
Look into this.
That tops it.
Look into this. I've got hot takes, and that's one of them.
That is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
Question.
So Dan, you said we've all said it. We're not doctors. But Dan, you are a lawyer. So I think they canceled.
And I slept in a Holiday Inn last night, so I can take any medical questions for the rest of this evening. But then it runs out. So.
But I think the Big Ten canceled for one reason: liability. But what I do not understand is how is there not liability
for
having them practice every day, from having them in the locker room, even if you're socially distanced? How the hell are they going to shower? I mean, some people have to shower together. They can't. They can do 1-by-1 showers. They'll be there for 4 days.
I was not aware that I would have to explain the Big Ten's showering processes.
Yes, exactly.
I hate
that
to
wasn't
say
on
it,
the
but
agenda.
the
Don't say it.
The two of you are not
Don't
qualified
say
to
it.
discuss this either. So
That's fine. I'll edit that.
Right past
I'm going to
that.
edit that comment right out of this podcast. But Dan, there's no difference in liability, right?
No, there's not, and that's why it tells me that liability wasn't the main factor in their decision-making process.
It's about academics, boys. I already told you.
I think the biggest complication is they can put themselves in a bubble in University Park, in Hullabaloo Hall. They can bubble themselves, and when I say that, I mean Penn State specifically. But all the Big Ten schools doing that thing by keeping it all internal on campus. They can bubble their players and at least feel like they can get something useful out of this year. I would imagine that's what the logic
they have
is.
to practice. They can't. I get it. Why? I mean, they have to practice. They can't go a year and a half without practicing. I mean, that'll kill recruiting. The Big Ten is gonna be really hurt by this, as well as the Pac-12 in recruiting if the other conferences actually do play. But it is what it is. And let's be honest. I mean, I'm hoping these other conferences can play. If they think it's safe, don't come at me in the comments with any COVID bullshit. If they think it's safe, but they're just going to be crushed by recruiting, the Big Ten and Pac-12, and that's one of my fears. And let's be honest as well. I mean, I think it's going to be tough for the other conferences because no matter what you do, I mean, the college kids are not sitting in their dorm. They're not pros. They're not getting paid millions a year. You can tell them to sit in their dorm all you want. They're going to parties. And I do agree it's going to be really hard to play, but I'm rooting for the other conferences again, not because I don't think COVID's real. It absolutely is, but I like decisions. I like decisions that make sense. I like a decision that says it's not safe, we're not doing anything, or that says our doctors say it is safe and we're playing the games. I hate this. We're doing everything else, but we're not going to play the games bullshit. And
is there any chance this pandemic leads to some sort of realignment or slight change?
I hope so.
I think it's extremely possible.
Here's the question. If you were going to kick one team out of the Big Ten, who would it be?
Boy.
I feel like there's two obvious.
I mean, no, it's a hard question to ask because I would say Ohio State.
Yeah, I would kick Ohio State out 100%.
Okay.
That would make things a lot easier.
Why would I kick out Rutgers or Maryland when we beat them by 50 points every year?
No. I was going to say it's either Rutgers or Nebraska. But
I think Nebraska has the same point I do. What the hell are we doing? One or the other.
But I just mean why Nebraska can go back to the Big 12 or they can join.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care. I mean, they could.
Not West for all I care.
The answer to that is definitely Ohio State. I hate them.
But they're
but I mean, realistically, of course,
they try to pretend like they don't have the decision-making capability to rule over these conferences. But that's just a farce. It's a cop-out. They should be exhibiting some type of leadership to at least get everybody on the same page or as close to the same page as possible. To take this piecemeal conference by conference approach. It looks ridiculous. And it leaves conferences like the Big Ten to try and play it down the middle by not having a season, but pretending like they're having a season anyway, or at least preparing like they're having some type of season. It just doesn't make any sense because there's no leadership from Emmett.
Yeah. And can we talk about the fact that Greg Schiano's got a top 30 national recruiting class at Rutgers already? And I read on the great NJ.com this week that the football team's GPA this past semester was the highest GPA in football team history. That's how first of all, that's how bad everything Chris Ash was. That's how long it took Greg Schiano to figure out the academic issues in the program. One semester. But it's a shame there won't be football because I think the winner of the Penn State Ohio State game was going to play for the national title. And I think Rutgers was going to surprise some people. And I think watching Tua's brother play at Maryland, even though they're going 4-8 again, was going to be fun.
Look, Rutgers is going to be done sideways by the coronavirus in two ways. They were going to have the first NCAA tournament team in God knows how long, and that got screwed over by the coronavirus. And they were going to have a competitive football team this fall, and they got screwed over by the coronavirus too. So poor Rutgers.
In 1990, Rutgers won the East Coast Conference, the ECAC tournament bid by beating Penn State. That's the last time Rutgers won the tournament, 1990.
All right, we've hit our Rutgers.
That's
time
our.
for-
If
That's
that's
how
our,
up.
if that's our Rutgers limit for one podcast, you were on
That
the
We need
wrong
actually
podcast,
may
there,
be-
Christian.
That may
We
have
need a
covered
Rutgers.
couple-
We need a Rutgers
We'll be
horn
taking
to bring up the
That may have
rear
covered
here.
the
We'll be
limit for a
taking-
couple podcasts. No
We'll
more
be
Rutgers
broadcasting
talk.
live from Skinny Vinny's in New Brunswick in 2 weeks. Be there, people.
Yeah. Well, but I should say, if there's any Rutgers athletes out there who want to come on our show, we'd love to have you. We love Rutgers.
What's while we're begging for guests here, I know Steve Cohen is our first ask.
We're
I would
high.
love to get Marco Battaglia on this podcast. But who's the dream? Who's your dream guest? I came up with a good one.
Realistic dream or unrealistic dream? I say let's go realistic.
Realistic. What's your realistic dream?
Dan, I'll go first. I'll give you a second to think because mine pops in my head right away. Ahmad Bradshaw, Pride of Virginia, Super Bowl champion with the New York Giants, retired, so he doesn't have any agents or PR people who'll tell him not to come on this lightly watched or maybe not watched at all
Your
podcast.
realistic dream guest is Ahmad Bradshaw of all people.
Because he's got to be retired. No one's coming on.
Well, I understand that.
But no, I have just a really warm spot in my heart for Ahmad Bradshaw. We don't win the 2007 Super Bowl without him. He's from Virginia. He seems like a great dude. I've read a lot about him. He does a lot to help.
Where is he from? What part of the state?
Southwest Virginia, kind of near Roanoke or
down there.
Past Roanoke. Does a lot. I think Bluefield, Virginia pops into my mind. I can't wait to check if that's right after the show. But he does a lot for his local community. He's a great human being. He was a great football player. Dan, I think he was a 7th round pick, or maybe undrafted. But
no, he was a 7th round pick. 7th round pick.
He was a little guy like Matos, and or I should say Dan.
No.
Sorry for using
little guy like Matos.
But
would had a better athletic career if I was a little guy like Ahmad
nobody
Bradshaw.
ran as hard as Ahmad Bradshaw. So I know it's out of left field, but that's my realistic dream guest. And
my realistic
dream somehow
is going to be somebody I think is attainable. I think if we get there,
that's
we
why
could get him. All right. And this is a little shout out to you, Jack. Sean Doolittle. I think we can get Sean Doolittle on the show.
Oh, that's not attainable.
I think that's easily attainable.
It's very attainable, my friend. All right.
Sean
So that's all I need.
Let's try DMing his wife on Twitter. They're very nice and fun. Say, hey.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I'm the pride.
I got connects. All right. I got connects.
We got a podcast. They're in DC. Would you do 5 minutes? Why not? Sean Doolittle seems like the nicest guy in the world.
Don't challenge me.
You got a second.
He also went to UVA. He's also a UVA tie.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Sentimental Rutgers basketball fan in me would say former coach Bob Wenzel. I think he would do it. I got love for the Wenzel. He's a great announcer.
Wenzel's on Mad Dog all the time.
We could get Bob Wenzel, I'm sure.
He's a great announcer, knowledgeable guy.
Wenzel got let go after my freshman year. So it's funny. So close to Bob Wenzel, I thought you were going to say mine. My dream guest, Bob Hurley Sr.
A good one.
That would be a good one. I'd like to have one long conversation with him about coaching basketball.
Yeah.
I think he's just
great man.
Talk about doing
a lot for your community.
Who changed a lot of people's lives, whose kids, turned out to be good coach. But I would just love just to pick his brain about everything from back screens to cursing at officials.
Absolutely. All right, boys. Great first show. I hope you all out there in internet land enjoyed it. Give us a like if you watched our video. Send it to your friends. We'll be back with episode 2 in the near future.
Adios, everyone.
Peace.